I want you guys to know that everything that is going on right now in Pittsburgh is a byproduct of everything that went on at the end of the Big Ben's career. If you want a clear snapshot of how the present can drastically affect the future, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. One thing that you don't, when you're in it, you're in it, right? And I don't think it's just sports, it's anything. When you're in it, you're in it. You don't really think about it ending, especially if you're competing with something or for something, or you're enjoying yourself, whatever it is. When you're in it, you're in it. And you don't really think. A lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people don't really plan for the next steps. They are just so in it, and they're enjoying themselves. They're competing. They don't really think about what's next. I think that's why, on top of poor financial choices, poor spending habits, I think that's why a lot of athletes go broke. They don't have the wherewithal. They don't foresee their life after sports. So they think that the way that they're spending now, the money is just, they don't think that the money is going to stop eventually. Or I'm not going to say stop. I will say drastically slow down with the rate in which they get paid while they're in it. But I feel like I'm getting a little off topic. So let's get back to the Steelers. At the end of Big Ben's career, as an organization, you have to understand that what we're seeing from Big Ben, even though in real time he was deteriorating, even though in real time you can see, okay, yeah, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the end, because the version of Big Ben that we're getting is not the Big Ben that won Super Bowls and that constantly had the Steelers atop the AFC. We're getting a older, diminished Big Ben. That's what we were getting. And they, as many opportunities as they had, they would not plan for the future. They just kept writing the right now. They kept writing it, and they kept pushing back the future. Well, they pushed it back so far to once it hit their doorstep, they realized that they weren't prepared for it, because they kept pushing it back. They kept riding that right now train. So when Big Ben retires and the Steelers realize, oh, shoot, we do not have a successor for Big Ben. We don't have a game plan as to how to build a team outside of Big Ben. Yeah, we always have a defense. Yes, we have a great coach, but that's it. Yeah, we have a couple players on the offensive side of the ball, but that's it. We don't have the engine to make this go. Or I'll say this, the engine to make this go is a coach, or the engine to make this go is a defensive player. And as we've seen, think about this. Aaron Donald is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, defensive player ever. Surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. Again, you can argue one of, if not the greatest defensive player ever. Aaron Donald didn't win a damn thing until they got Matthew Stafford. Yes, as great as TJ Watt is, that's not going to get it done in today's NFL. Why am I saying all this? Where am I getting at? You look up today, And Aaron Rodgers knows it. Everyone in the media knows it. I think even the fans know it. It is evident and clear that the Steelers are desperate when it comes to trying to get Aaron Rodgers. Mind you, this is the same Aaron Rodgers that had probably his worst year, a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers. Last year was probably his worst year. Not saying he was terrible, but he wasn't great. He was so great, I'll say this, that it was easy for the Jets to cut him. And his man's Devontae Adams. And I don't think a team has been this desperate to get a player. I'm not going to say washed, but not even remotely close to his prime than the Steelers are with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers knows it. Why do you think, obviously he did this before and this is his whole shtick, but why do you think Aaron Rodgers is making the Steelers wait as long as they have to wait? Why do you think every report comes out says he does not want to go to the Steelers? The only issue is the teams that he wants to go to don't want him. He wanted to go to the Vikings. They said nah. He wanted to go, I guess the Giants are still in play, but you just signed Jameis Winston. So this is all a byproduct of not preparing yourself for what's next when it came to Big Ben. And you're probably thinking, bro, Jake, hold on. When did Big Ben retire? When did Big Ben retire? Big Ben retired in 2022. 3 years ago. Big Ben really wasn't great. Well, stopped being great, I'll probably say around 2018, 2019. But just held on until 2022. In that same time, let's look at Steelers quarterbacks. So, since 2022, the Steelers have had start at least one game. Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields. Does any of that sound like, and this is a diminished Russell Wilson, but does any of that sound like a plan? That in 3 years you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starting quarterbacks at least once? And now I'm not going to go as far and I'm not going to disrespect them and say that they're begging. But it seems like there's one side that is much more, let's say, desperate than the other. And honestly, like, they're also not making smart decisions at the time. Look, as a fantasy owner, or when I did do fantasy football, shit, I've done it like every year, so I can't say when I've done it, but DK Metcalf has always been a fantasy pick for me if he's available. I know how good he is in fantasy. I know his abilities. I know how important and how vital he is to a team. I know that he is a number one option. And probably if you waited, you may not have been able to get him. I understand that too. I understand that you can't just be like, well, if you wait a little longer, because no, there's other teams vying for it and that could maybe offer more than you were willing to give. I understand that. But why sign DK Metcalf to a contract extension as much as they did without having a quarterback to throw him the ball? When you also know that one of his biggest issues and one of the reasons why he is not a Seattle Seahawk is because he did not like the quarterback that he had and the scheme that they ran. Well, now you're going to a place where not only do they have another wide receiver that is going to need as much touches as him, because that's another thing. Tyler Lockett was getting up there in age. Jackson Smith-Njigba was pretty good, but he wasn't DK Metcalf at the time. George Pickens is great. He's a head case, yes, but he's great. But why would you sign him without him knowing the quarterback is going to be throwing him the ball? And on top of that, another person that looks terrible in this whole situation is Russell Wilson. Because what you mean that we're still considered Russell Wilson if we don't get Aaron Rodgers? Did you look? I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers was trash last year, and I'm also not saying that Russell Wilson was the next best quarterback from Lamar Jackson. What I'm saying is, I don't know if you watched last year, Pittsburgh, but Russell Wilson wasn't that much far off than Aaron Rodgers. In fact, in a lot of areas, he was better. And Aaron Rodgers in fact, you can argue, it really is no argument, Aaron Rodgers had more pieces, had more weapons than Russell Wilson. It's all about preparation. If you don't prepare properly, you're going to be behind the eight ball. And if you're behind the eight ball, like the Pittsburgh Steelers are right now, you seem and look extremely desperate for a quarterback that has, at every single turn, has told you he really don't want to be there. And on top of that, even if you get him, do you think that in a division that has both Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, it also has Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Judy, do you think that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback? Let me see something real quick. The same Aaron Rodgers that just a year ago, I want to remind you guys, just a year ago, with all the talent in the world, we were told, won 5 games. In a division that saw Tua get hurt, had Drake May, and obviously Josh Allen. You could only muster up 5 games. 5 wins, I'm sorry. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is the guy to get the job done for? You think Aaron Rodgers is the one to bring that Steeler culture back? No. Well, let me say this. I don't think so. But clearly the Pittsburgh Steelers do. The Pittsburgh Steelers is a cautionary tale. You should, even if you yourself don't want to look into the future, have somebody that is smart enough and that you trust enough to prepare for the future for you. Because if not, you have situations like this. Desperate. And honestly, even the move that you're desperate for ain't going to change nothing. But we'll see what happens. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.